We just took a look at the variety of settings available to us through the global theme settings page, as well as the settings available through specific theme settings pages. And you may have noticed that there's an overlap. All of the global settings, or most of them in most cases, will appear on the theme-specific settings pages. So how do we know which setting is being used on our current Drupal site? This is the question that we're going to answer in this section, and in the process of answering it, we'll also look at how to completely uninstall a theme, because the way that settings are saved is closely associated with the way that we would completely reset the settings for a theme. Okay, so when we looked at the global settings, we saw a limited set of options, and those options are duplicated on a theme settings page. Now let's go ahead and look at the database at how these settings are saved. I'm going to jump to my database browser. And what I've done is I'm currently in the Drupal database, and I've selected the variable table, which you may be familiar with from previous videos. It's where various variables are stored for settings, for modules, but it's also where themes store their settings as well. And in this variable table, we're looking at the columns, of which there are two, name and value. And what I've done is conducted a search through the name column, and that contains the word theme. Now this is the way that we're going to divvy out all of the variables that are applicable to our theme layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click the filter button, and that will refresh my page. Now if you're using a different database administration system, you may use something like a like statement in order to grab these particular variables. And let's go ahead and look at our matches. We have admin theme, which is the name of the theme that we're using for our admin section. Node admin theme, which corresponds to whether we're going to use administration pages on our node editing pages. And then we have a set of settings here for our themes. This one is called theme Bartik settings, and this one is called theme bat settings. And as you may have already guessed, these are the settings that we save when we submit the theme settings page for these particular themes. So bat is the theme that we've been using in previous videos, which is a sub-theme of Bartik. And you see, as we look at the value of these, that they start out pretty similarly. These are a serialized value, which means that we're taking an array, most likely, or an object, and condensing it down into a string. So you'll see some extra letters and numbers that indicate the type of variable and the size of the variable, but then inside of the parentheses we'll actually see the name and the values of each of these variables. What I'm going to do is open up the value of one of these so we can just take a look. I'm going to open up the Bartik setting. So you see we have toggle logo, toggle name, toggle slogan, and these are all variables that correspond to those toggle checkboxes that you see under the toggle settings box, both in the global settings and in our theme specific settings. And as we scroll down, we see some color options that are part of our color selectors. So the main point here is that when we save our theme settings, they're all saved into a single place. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this section here. And now if we look down this list of matches for theme in our variable table, we see that there's a theme settings, and this is the default or global theme settings. And if we look at the contents of it, we'll see it's pretty similar to what we saw in our previous variable, except it's a little simpler because in our global settings we don't have any color options available to us. But you see there's toggle logo, toggle name, toggle slogan, and as we scroll down we'll see that there's also logo options and favicon options too. So the way to determine whether global settings are being used or specific theme settings are being used can be done through looking at these variables. And the rule of thumb here is that if there's a variable for our theme and we're set to use that theme, that these settings are being used. If this entry doesn't exist in the variable table, then the global setting is being used. Now, if we wanted to test this without looking at our database, we could simply enable certain options globally and see if they stick for our specific theme. Now, because of the way this works, it's an all or nothing deal. We're either using our theme specific settings or using our global settings. And if we wanted to reset our theme altogether, we would need to delete our theme specific settings. Now there's not a way to do this through the user interface in Drupal, so even if we disable our theme, it will still keep our theme settings just in case we enable it again and want to use it, and there's not an uninstall option like there is for modules. So if you want to completely uninstall a theme and reset it to its default settings, you simply need to delete its entry in the variable table. For example, if we're using the Bartik theme, we would select the theme Bartik settings and then go ahead and delete this row. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this will cascade our settings down to use the default or global theme settings. So we can test this by jumping to our browser. And let's go ahead and go to the default settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Settings tab on our Appearance page. And let's disable some of these toggle options. I'm going to disable logo, site name, and site slogan. And then I'm going to save the form. Now, because we deleted the theme settings for the Bartik theme, now when we go to the Bartik settings, I'm going to go ahead and click on the tab, and we scroll down to the toggle settings, we'll see that logo, site name, and site slogan are disabled. But now if we went and enabled a couple of these, say site slogan and site name, and then submitted this form, what it will do is create that entry in the variable table for settings for this particular theme. So if we look at the global settings, I'm going to go ahead and click over to this. We see that logo, site name, and site slogan are all still disabled. But in Bartik, if we jump back to Bartik and scroll down to our settings, we'll see that logo is disabled, site name and site slogan are enabled. At this point, if we make any changes on the global level, let's go ahead and disable a couple other options and save it. These won't apply to the Bartik theme anymore because we now have specific Bartik settings. So I'm jumping over to the Bartik settings page and scrolling down. And you see we still have just our logo disabled.